M is for Mason.
G is for Graham.
B is for Bagshaw. This is the MGB Wrestling Podcast, the podcast with PG-rated material accessible to wrestling fans of all ages. Let's take a look at the card for episode A2 of the MGB Wrestling Podcast, our review of Nova Pro Wrestling tryout show Sink or Swim on the afternoon, March 10th, and our review of the evening show Ripper to Shreds.
My name is Graham Bagshaw, and my co-host and creator of this podcast is proof that wrestling fans live with their parents, my 10-year-old son, Mason. Hi, Mason. So we're recording this on Sunday morning. It was a pretty long day for us on Saturday. If we just said we went to a wrestling show, that might not tell the whole story. Do you want to give a little more insight into everything that happened yesterday? The fact that actually it probably wasn't one show we went to, it was actually two shows that we went to.
Well, first of all, I think we saw 28 matches.
I think that's what was said. Yeah, it was. I saw it was 27 on Twitter. After the first session we went to, it was listed as 18 matches. I only counted 17, so I don't know. We must have missed one somewhere, or they missed one. But yeah, 28 matches, so it was a lot to see yesterday.
That was just a lot of wrestling. Like you said, you thought you would get bored after Sink or Swim. And no.
And I posted on Twitter ahead of time. I was really worried. I wasn't sure if I had the stamina. I've never been to that many matches consecutively. We also heard, as we were getting to the first match, that there was going to be no intermission as well. So that meant that it was going to be 3 hours straight. So that was a little concern as well. It actually turned out to be 3.5 hours straight. And it wasn't a problem at all. It was perfectly okay. And even for the evening session, we actually had a 45-minute gap in between, which wasn't long. And it didn't seem much at all. So the two shows yesterday that happened were, first of all, this Sink or Swim that we've been talking about. This is the tryout show where they were bringing in wrestlers to try and compete to get onto the main roster. And then in the evening show, starting at 8 o'clock, the Rip Her to Shreds. And that was the first time that they've actually done the all-female card, I guess, for the wrestling. So there was a couple of things different than what normally happens, but we were kind of excited. We didn't go to the tryout show last year, so we were certainly excited to go and see that. Now, things started off pretty badly. I overslept. I was tired. I set my alarm so we could get there on time, and I set it for Friday instead of Saturday. So we were about 40 minutes late on where we intended being. I thought the doors opened at 2:30, and first match started at 3. And we know from Nova, they often have pre-shows as well, so we weren't sure if they were going to do that for tryouts or not. We got there, I think it was 3:05. We got there just a few minutes late. And actually, you couldn't even get in. I never really heard an explanation for that, but I think we got in around 3:30. Does that sound about right? So, yeah, it was a little bit late. Now, certainly for the tryout show, we're not going to talk about every match, because I think that would be way too much. 17 matches, possibly 18 matches. But we certainly made notes on things that we thought were important. Wrestlers that stood out, any particular matches that we liked, things that we noticed that were of particular interest. So, first match was Josh Fuller, who we have seen before, actually. So I'm not quite sure. He's actually been the first match for, I think, the last 2 events, but normally part of that tag team. And he was fighting True. I don't know where you want to start off on, Mason. I didn't see anything personally that new in match 1, so we've seen Josh Fuller before. I think he's good. I don't see any reason why he couldn't be on the main card.
Yeah, well, the one thing that was different was Josh Fuller choked True for a count of 5, and True won by disqualification.
He did, and I think that sort of fits in with his character before. We've seen him doing sneaky things, and there wasn't particularly a surprise. I don't think one thing that I realised until later in the card, it looked like the matches were limited to 10 minutes each. We did have one match later that did get the bell suddenly rang, and everybody's like, whoa, what happened? And you're like, the 10-minute time limit has elapsed, therefore it's a draw. So all these matches had to be kept fairly short, just so they got a chance to see everybody. The first person I wrote down that impressed me was actually match 2. Benjamin Banks, big guy. I thought he was strong. I thought he was impressive. He had a way of getting the crowd involved as well. He was part of a tag team, but when his partner was in trouble, he was trying to get... Was he the guy who was doing the pinky?
Yeah, he was the guy who said pinky power.
Yeah, pinky power, and it almost looked sort of like a gated community thing, the 1%. I know they put up a different finger. They put up the index finger. We put up the pinky for that one, but yeah, nobody really knew what that was, but everybody sort of got involved in it. So that was certainly my first one that I really liked.
Yeah, I really liked him too. I thought I saw him in the Ripper to Shreds. Him and his partner. I think we sat near him.
Oh, possibly. I don't know. I know you said that. I wasn't sure that was them, but anyway, I'm not too sure on that. Match 3, I did write down, and I think this was a problem for the whole of the tryout show. There were so many people. There were so many people we didn't know. Like, I followed on Twitter on the at VA Wrestling feed, so we knew some of the people who were going to appear, but we were trying to, who is this people? We just don't know who they are. And the second match was a singles match, and one person got into the ring, and then the other person got into the ring, and then they started to fight, and the second guy said to the first, "Do you know who I am?" And which is probably a reasonable comment to make under normal circumstances, but yeah, one of the fans shouted out, "We don't know who either of you are." And unfortunately, that was probably one of the downsides of this event, that you found somebody who was good, and you didn't even know who it was, so you couldn't really tell them who it was. It would be nice if you could have when we go to baseball games as well. When you get a program, you get the batting lineups, so you know, when the third person coming up, you can look at their number, you can look at their name. It would be great for a tryout show like that if they could produce a list of people so you can actually look at them. Perhaps even put their Twitter handles down as well, so you can follow them and find out a little bit more about them.
The thing is, the Nova Pro, the announcer said that we have the power tweet the person who you would like to swim and see on the main roster.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem was we didn't really know them, so it's hard.
And I got somebody from that third match who I thought was good, but I don't even know how to let VA Wrestling know. I know that one of the people in the crowd next to us kept shouting Fresh Prince. Yeah. And I think that was because of the clothes that he was wearing. I don't think that was his actual name. I guess we took some pictures. We could always tweet them, "Hey, this guy's good." But I thought it was certainly one thing that was a little bit difficult to do. Now, match 4, I know we definitely want to talk about. It featured somebody we know from the regular Nova Pro meets. Bo Crockett came out, first of all, who used to be originally part of the Carnies. And he came out with his new partner for today, who was on the tryouts. I don't know if you have that name, Mason.
Alistair.
I got Jake Hollister. Hollister was his last name. Jake Hollister. And he came out, and those guys started arguing straight away. They were supposed to be a tag team. They certainly weren't the most productive tag team, that's for sure. And they faced Los Chicanos, who I thought were really good, actually.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Los Chicanos a little bit?
Well, first, Bo Crockett, he kept calling them the Usos because, they had half their face painted.
They did, and they had the left half and the right half painted. And it was Jimmy and Jay as the Usos, and I did write down what these guys' names were. Yeah, it was like Jeffrey and Jonathan, so it was kind of similar, so that was a little bit confusing as well.
They're both Jays.
They were both Jays, yeah, and they both had that same sort of face paint thing, and I thought they were an exciting tag team. I actually did suggest that would be one of the teams I would probably like to see back again. I thought they put on an entertaining match. They didn't win, of course, because the Carnies were up to their normal tricks, but anyway, I thought that was certainly a good match. After that, I'm going to say, now, we have differences of agreements here. Now, when we got to around match 9, I was talking match 9, you were talking about match 7, so it's going to be interesting to see if we actually agree on any of these things afterwards.
Yeah, the one I missed was the Benjamin Banks one.
But that was the one. Yeah. Okay, so we figured part of that out. Match 5, I wrote down, I didn't know the guy's name either. On his t-shirts, his friends were clearly across from us because they were cheering Calvin. Big time. He said, "Jealousy is a disease" t-shirt.
Yeah, Calvin.
And he had the clip-on bow tie as well. And there was quite a lot. There wasn't as many people there as normal, which was to be expected because it was a tryout show. But there was a lot of crowd participation, and I think the guy went for his bow tie and ripped it off, and he's feeling all proud about it. And then everyone shouts, "It's a clip-on!" And anyway, he got another one. He clipped his second one back in as well. But I thought a lot of these matches had nice little gimmicks in there. There was a lot for crowd participation. Match 6, Jordan Blade was the winner. I thought it was a good match, but nothing in particular I want to comment about. And then actually at that point, I said, "Hey, let's go get some autographs. Let's go get some merchandise. If there's no break, we need to create our own break." So we got up, and what did we do in that 10-15 minutes while match 7 was on?
We went to the 1%ers. We got Logan LaRoe card picture, an Alley Cat picture, and a 1%er.
Yeah, we got the gated community. They were doing a special offer yesterday, 3 posters for $20, and also we got a free pin as well, Logan Easton LaRoe pin. And we actually saw Alley Cat was actually sat near the, I think it was a commentary table. So we were going to try and get her autograph, and then, of course, we didn't think about bringing pens, of course. We took notes, so we went to go and get that. And at that point, Alley Cat was just about to leave. But I would say, really nice. I asked her, hey, Ali, do you mind if you autograph this for my son? And she did. She stayed, and we got pictures, and we're certainly going to post those as part of this YouTube feed as well. And then you got Logan as well. Do you want to talk about meeting Logan?
Logan? Yeah. So we took a picture, and then we got to do the 1%ers thing where we touched index fingers.
And
yeah.
Yeah, normally when we do our pictures, we try and get the autograph that we've got, you holding the autograph, and then the person, so you can see the whole thing at once. And this is actually, I think, the first time we haven't done that. Logan got him straight away in that position for the 1% with his finger raised, and I thought that was a nice, cool picture to have something a little bit different.
We got a picture with them, but we didn't.
We got the picture with the Chicanos, correct, yes. I think that was after we went to Logan. We went to the back, and then, we saw those guys, and we got their autograph because we already saw their match, and we really liked that one as well. From later matches, and I didn't find his name till later, the guy who said Revolutionary, and I saw the quote, "No justice, no peace." And I wrote down, he was the first person I actually heard anybody say, "Please come back." And I've heard that at other events as well, particularly Tennille Dashwood, Emma from WWE, when she's appeared in some of the events recently. I think it's called What Tomorrow. They did that big chant there, and they certainly did this. Anyway, it was Darius Lockhart. That was the person, and I saw a few other people mention on Twitter that they really liked him as well.
That's why he was saying, oh, I heard one of the fans say Blockhart.
And that was the issue. It was so difficult when you don't know their names, and I like it when they have their names on their pants, or if they have it on their tights. And then you can read it. And I think I said that from one of your people. It was like, what was her name? And I was like, just look on her behind. You can see the name on her tights and whatever.
Yeah.
And it does kind of help that. But yeah, we didn't know. Match 10, I thought O'Shea Edwards was very good as well. I don't remember if he actually won that match or not, but I know that he was. No, he actually got pinned in that match. But even then, I still think the crowd.
Flip-flop dude.
Yeah. Oh, that was that match?
Yes.
No, that was the match before that. So that was your second match that you missed then. So match 9 had Flip-Flop Guy. I think it's something Cabana Man. I think that's his handle on Twitter. And and then in match 10, that was when we had O'Shea Edwards. And the mean character comment from the person next to us is that one of the other people in the tag team was dressed up as a Halloween. It looked like a cheap Halloween costume. Okay, moving on from that one. 11. We didn't find the names for this until later. I thought it was a British wrestler to begin with, because when she walked in, orange hair, and it said "bloody adorable" on her pants, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a very English phrase." Now you're rolling your eyes at me right now. That's kind of a mild phrase in Britain. That's not really a cuss word. That's a very tame cuss word. So that'll be like that'll be like saying "darn it." You can get away with that one. So no, that was okay. But there was 4 people. We found out later it was Jinx, Aspen Rose. They're not British at all. I saw they're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure about both of them. I didn't make a note on that part. Hyan, and it was Harlow O'Hara was the 4th person. Mm-hmm. And do you want to talk about that match a little? I do actually remember little bits about that match.
Yeah, Hyan, she called Jinx, Aspen, and the other girl, I forgot her name already. They called Harlow. Yeah, she called her Green Fruit Loop. She called Jinx Orange Fruit Loop, and Aspen Blue Fruit Loop because of their hair.
And that really got picked up by the crowd as well. And actually, even these people actually appeared later on in the main show as well. And we were still referring to them at that point as there's Blue Fruit Loop. And I felt bad doing that, but I just did not know what their names were at that time. And actually, I know Hyatt was complaining because she's like, "Hey, this is not supposed to be a tag team match. It was supposed to be a fatal 4-way." But it did look like those two, Jinx and Aspen, were certainly working together. And as we found out later, they are actually a tag team. So that story sort of made a little bit more sense later. Spoiler alert. Yeah, exactly. Now, match 12. For me, this was the best match of all. I put it out on Twitter that for me, this was the best match. This was a 3-way match. This was between the Abominable CPA, Bobby Orlando, and Bobby Jr., actually, who was his little goat that he carried around as well, and Harry Zen. Okay, do you want to talk us through this match a little bit?
First of all, Bobby Orlando is probably my favorite wrestler in Sink or Swim and Rip Her to Shreds. He reminded me of somebody from Despicable Me, the first one in the pyramid setting. He was getting into the bus. Yeah, he looked like him. And I don't know if it was supposed to be like that. And if I remember correctly, he also had a goat, so...
And I got to check that out. Like I say, you have a much better memory for things like that, and I don't remember that at all. But I remember it reminded me a little bit at the start, and I took a little picture of this and posted a video of this and posted it on Twitter as well. He was in his corner when the other two people were coming in, and he was actually talking to the goat. And that's just the kind of thing that Rob Killjoy does for the Ugly Ducklings. He gets his little duck mask and he does like a little prep talk with it. The only difference was at the end he gave the goat a kiss as well. Like he said on his Twitter page, he loves Bobby Jr. So I thought those guys were really good. I thought there was a good connection between all three of them. There was a lot of silliness in there, but for me it was very entertaining. And I'm kind of with you as well. I'm not prepared to say it's my best match of the two sessions. I am prepared to say it was the most entertaining of the two sessions, for sure. I think there was better wrestling in one of the other matches, but I'm going to talk about that one a little bit later. I wasn't going to say which one it was. I don't need to say which one it is right now. So that was, for me, that was by far the best match. 13, I thought this was a good match as well. We actually talked about one of the entrants in episode 1, because I showed you a picture, because they just announced some of the entrants. And I said the one that looks the most interesting is the Grimy Scots. And they were actually part of a 3-way tag team. And I don't know, I don't get that, Mason. I don't understand, because you've got 2 tag teams fighting. How does the 3rd tag team ever get in?
You tag them. Didn't we watch one between Chris Benoit, Stone Cold, and Rock?
Possibly, but I just don't see why you'd ever tag in the other team.
Because you're tired.
Well, tag your own teammate.
Well, they're tired too.
Well, you're not going to win then anyway, so I don't see. But at that point, why would then the other team who's fresh ever tag you back in? So I don't quite get the logistics of those matches anyway.
Like always.
Anyway, so the Grimy Scots were one of the teams. The Cross Brothers, who had t-shirts, not the cool kids in school, who I really liked. And the third ones, who I don't even know, I'm going to call them the Redheads. Because they even came... Oh, that was their name? Okay, yeah. They just came and insulted somebody on the front row straight away with basically like, you're stupid, you don't have red hair. That was pretty much about as far as it went. So, I think the Cross Brothers actually won that match. And actually, that was another tag team I recommended. I thought the Cross Brothers had the best wrestling skills, but I thought the Grimy Scots certainly had a lot of banter there. I know you had a flaw in their act. Did you want to tell us what wasn't so good about the Grimy Brothers?
Well, first of all, I thought it's funny that one of the bigger Grimy Scots, he held this big piece of wood, and it fell off the apron. It
fell off the apron multiple times.
Yeah, and it went to this guy in the front row, and he said, the wood likes me more than you, it shows me.
Yeah,
and then he put it back on the apron, and it fell over again.
It fell over again. Yeah, he got close to us this time, but yeah.
And,
that big club was kind of a funny thing. They didn't actually use it at any point in the match, I don't think.
Yeah, they did at the end.
After the match had finished?
Yeah, so that big guy, bigger Scottish,
I know one of them was Hamish. I did remember that.
He hit the Cross Brother in the belly because they beat him. So, and also the lady next to me, she blew the guy a kiss, and then the guy put it under his coat.
And there was a bit of banter between those two as well. I really like the Grimy Scots. I couldn't find out almost anything on these guys at all. They're on Facebook, but on Twitter, the only recollection I could find of them was one post which announced that they were joining, which was how I found the original picture to show you, and another one 2 years ago which spelled Grimy with an E. And that was it. So these guys don't seem to have much of a social media presence at all, which is kind of a shame. I thought they were good. I certainly hope that they're going to be back. You did shout out to them as well, and this is true, but they would know that, because somebody said, England's better, and then you shouted out as well, well, I'm from England, and they shouted back, well, you don't sound like you're from England, but you left England when you were 18 months, which is not very fair. But then at times, they didn't sound very Scottish either, and they kept dropping in and out of the accent as well, and I think I heard somebody say sounds like their accent is South Central Scotland, which was obviously a joke between two different places. So.
And at the start though, the bigger guy, he yelled at a fan, "Shut your gob."
No, he didn't. The fan yelled, "Shut your gob." He said, "Shut your mouth," and that's when the fan corrected him. It should be "Shut your gob." So yeah, they didn't even have all the English phrases there. So yeah, that was kind of, and I didn't hear him say it. Now for me, if I'm doing a fake Scottish accent, I'll be throwing in the word "we" a few times. Do you know what "we" is in Scottish? It means small. So it's like you're having a wee wrestling match today, laddie. It would be like a small wrestling match.
I heard that phrase before. It's like a wee bit.
Yeah, a wee bit or something. That's it. You got it. All right, now we're moving towards the end here. 14, I've got the Hawkeye Steve Manders. and he had on his trunks Manders, and I don't think of him as Steve Manders, because we had a very young fan who was behind us, who for me was one of the stars of the show, who was very vocal for this person. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. He was his uncle. He kept yelling, "Go, Uncle Steven."
And I don't remember how old was the kid, do you think? Was he probably about 3 or 4?
Yeah.
I think we got a 4-year-old as well. He's got a 4-year-old brother, Jackson, and I think it was similar to him. Now, what I didn't know is, and I found this out later, his nickname is the Hawkeye, and his reason for that is he was actually a Division I footballer. He used to play for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Oh.
So I thought that was kind of cool, and it just made me wonder. I know Gunnar Miller was also a Division I player as well.
Yeah.
So there is that background in wrestling with footballers. So yeah, I think if Steve Manders does return, I'm always going to think of him as Uncle Steve now.
Yeah.
It was really cool to hear that little kid shouting all the time, "Let's go, Uncle Steve!" But yeah, I thought he had a good match. I don't know if I wrote it down.
Yeah,
but
Barry Corbin was a wrestler, a football player too.
Correct, and there's quite a history of that for those people. All right, now 15. This is where we started to get interesting, and I actually told you about this on Twitter ahead of time. I saw Coach Gator was having breakfast in the morning with, I believe it was Laney Luck, but more importantly, Tony Atlas, who's a Hall of Famer. And Tony Atlas came out to the ring with Coach Gator, but he was on a walking stick.
Yeah.
And were you buying the walking stick?
No, it was super short too. He was bending down.
Yeah.
And then so his tag team partner was Innocent Isaiah, and they were facing.
I think that's the wrong.
Innocent,
Isaiah Frazier.
Yeah. Isaiah Frazier says, "I'm Isaiah, not Isaiah."
Mm-hmm.
Innocent.
Now, before this all happened, you missed an important bit. He was actually introduced by Coach Gator, and he told him about the history of Tony Atlas and how important a figure he was. Also known as for bodybuilding as well as wrestling, so known in sort of two fields. And then the challenges that came out were the Mason-Dixon line. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I'm not quite sure why they came out, and perhaps there wasn't even supposed to be a match, because obviously 2 against an old guy would be very unfair. But yeah, Isaiah Frazier came out to help. And it turned out that the walking stick wasn't fake. He told us at the end of the match he'd had an injury doing some weightlifting. He felt really bad that he couldn't wrestle properly. Coach Gator mentioned he was under doctor's orders not to fight, and I was thinking, yeah, I've heard that before. We've seen that on WWE when they're out on a stretcher, and then 2 minutes later they're back in. It's normal. But no, it looked like legitimately he had an injury. And he spoke to us after the match. And can you remember what else he did with the crowd after the match?
Yeah, he said a pledge of allegiance, and then he said, "It took me a long time to realize what American hero was, but I'm not American hero. It's the policemen, the firemen, the Navy, the Marine, and the Army that put their lives on the line to save our country."
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if there are any firemen in attendance at this point, but it is actually held at the Annandale Fire Centre. So certainly at the end of the second session, we did see there was quite a group of firefighters who were actually there. Now, one thing I did read on Twitter afterwards was there was an inadvertent protest during the Pledge of Allegiance. Somebody actually took a knee. I don't know if you noticed that.
No.
I certainly did notice. So apparently the ring announcer, Brian, was on a knee at that point, just because he was trying to get out of the way of the thing. And we didn't know he was going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, but somebody did point out on Twitter that Brian was on one knee during the pledge. But that was totally innocent. That was not deliberate. And I don't think we even stood at the time, because we were sort of like confused as to what was going on. And by the time we sort of realised the pledge was sort of over.
Yeah, I still had my hat on, so I took it off.
Yeah. Normally we get that warning, like, please stand for the pledge. And he just went straight into the pledge. And he was like, whoa.
He was on for which it stands. And then I took my hat off, and then, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think I got the matches mixed up there as well a little bit. So that actually was match 16 there, Tony Atlas and Isaiah Frazier. And then match 17, the last one in that section, was Tim Donst and Logan Easton LaRoe. So this was the main event. Obviously, these guys are not trying to be on the main roster. They are on the main roster.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk us through that match a little bit?
Tim Donst, he had a safety squad, and I told you in the car, I called it, that Logan or somebody would spill water in the middle of the floor, in the middle of the ring, and they would bring a caution sign and put it in and have a match with that. They spilled the water. They had a caution sign. And then the duct tape Doug, he just pulled it out of the way, so Logan would slip on it.
And you did. You absolutely called that in the car, because we always like to try and think, like, what's Tim Donst going to do next? How is he going to evolve this character? What other little safety thing can he come up with? And you absolutely called that ahead of time. Now, the water came from the 1%ers, of course, and I saw them drinking earlier in the day. It was that Fiji water that President Trump likes to drink. So yeah, he took a drink and then spilled it, but he got caught out, of course, because he forgot that the water was in the middle, and then he went and slipped over as well.
Twice.
Yeah, it came up against him in the end.
Yeah, before that flip-flop dude, he drank
Cabana Man?
he drank one sip of the 1%er's water, then he threw it down and said, I don't like that dirty one.
Yeah, and he didn't touch it, and I saw also on Twitter that they managed to steal one of his flip-flops as well, but... Now, I'm not exactly sure on the ending for this match. I didn't write it down. I know Logan won, but I don't remember how. I'm blanking. And I obviously didn't write it down for some reason either.
It was Bobby Shields came in.
Oh, see, when I was trying to remember later, I was thinking that was actually, spoiler alert for the next one, that was actually the start of the next one.
Yeah.
So that's perhaps what I messed up on that one then, and what happened then. So, okay, so Bobby came out and helped him in that match?
Yeah, they beat him down.
So anyway, so this finished around 6:45, I think it was, 7 o'clock-ish. They gave us 45 minutes. They said they were going to open the doors a little later for the next event. And then they went straight to the ladies' card. Now, I was a little disappointed by this. The focus is supposed to be on the ladies. It was their night, quite rightly. And then as soon as Brian comes into the ring, there's music playing, and Logan walks out. We're like, what's going on here? This has nothing to do with you at all. And anyway, Tim Donst comes out again, because I guess he's unhappy with Logan from earlier as well. And it looks like they're going to go at it again, but before he even made it into the ring, Bobby Shields was there and hit him in the back of the head. Logan calls for a ref, and they ring the bell, and then they start that match, a 2-on-1 handicap match. And I think there was a few people like, what's going on? This is supposed to be the ladies' night. And what's your first match? The men. And some really good men at that as well. So how did they finally manage to get out of this hole that they put themselves in there?
So Alley Cat came in with a vest and a hard duty hat.
Hashtag safety cat. Yep.
Yeah. And she, Tim Donst tagged in Alley Cat, and she won the match.
She won pretty handily. She took out both of the guys. She also lifted up, I think it was Bobby Shields, onto her shoulder. Did a nice slam, and then pinned him 1, 2, 3 for the match. But then that was kind of really cool. I like both of those characters. We're big Tim Donst fans, as we've said before. And that's actually, I think that's one of my, that used to be, might still be, that might be your picture on the MGB Wrestling Podcast Twitter feed. I know we have the Ugly Ducklings on my Twitter feed as well. But yeah, we're big fans of those. And so they managed to pull it out in the end. But at this point, I was confused as well. I'm like, you really just going to use Alley Cat for that tiny little bit of a match? She was only out there for 2 minutes. But we found out later she did have another match as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, if it makes you feel better, it still is kind of all women's, because that's the pre-show, I guess. And so they had, that's not really Ripper Shreds.
So for the official match one, this was Lainey Luck and against the debuting Machiko. Now, Lainey Luck comes out in her unicorn head, which we've seen from previous matches as well, and she was there last month as well. And the debuting Machiko, as I said, is the rising son of Texas. Now, Lainey Luck is also from Texas, so they seem to have a good rapport at the start of the match. And I actually found out later on Twitter, they're actually best friends. Or that's certainly the apparent thing that it looked like from that one. Do you want to talk about through that match a little bit for us?
Well, that's my favorite match, I think, from Ripper to Shreds.
Okay.
I thought that was a really good match. It was entertaining. It was back and forth, and in the end, Lainey Luck won.
Yep.
So yeah.
And I thought it was a good match as well, and there was a good response afterwards. I saw from different people. It looked like Machiko was going to win. She did a DDT from the top rope, but it was actually a count of 2. There then was a suplex, and then there was the 1, 2, 3 for Lainey Luck. But yeah, it certainly went back and forth. There was an escaped sharpshooter in that match as well. There was a dive through the ring by Lainey Luck. There was a lot of things that were going on there. There was kicks to the faces. There was double knees. I thought they showed a lot of good moves in there. And you could see them being friends. They had that connection there. And I thought that made for a really good match. And at the end, we did hear, please come back. Now, the fact that Lainey's already a favourite within Nova Pro anyway means clearly they were talking to Machiko. Now, I did actually see that she does sell T-shirts as well. And it says, this shirt pays for my cat food. So that's my little prediction for the future as well, Mason. I think we're going to have a match, Machiko versus Alley Cat. And in match 2, we got to see some characters that we'd already saw in the tryout show. So this was the tag team this time of the Fruit Loops, as we called them earlier. This was actually Jinx and Aspen Rose against Hyan, who also was in that match, but also somebody Nix this time. And I didn't get a full name for... It might have been Ariana Nix. I think you're right, actually, because that was the one we were trying to look for the name on her clothing. Correct. Do you want to talk us about this match?
Well, I it wasn't that special of a match. All I gotta say is Aspen won in sink or swim, and Ripper shreds.
2-0, that's a pretty good start. Now, I did like the tag team, but I had the same thing. I didn't write much down. I thought it was an entertaining match, and I'm wondering if I didn't write much because I was actually watching the match so much. I have a positive feeling about this match. The only negative I had was there was definitely some missed kicks, though. There was one where they went to try and kick him. They totally missed them, and they still went down.
Yeah, you can see their hair brushing.
Yeah. So that would be my only downside for this. But no, I certainly liked both Aspen Rose and Jinx, and Hyan again as well. I thought she was a good wrestler as well. She went 0-2 on the night, but another one who I would probably like to see back as well. Match 3 featured the High Priestess, Isla Dawn, and a debut in Nova Pro for Kylie Ray. Do you want to talk about that match, Mason?
So I thought it was a great match. It was probably the most wrestling match of all Ripper to Shreds and Sink or Swim. So.
And I'll say straight away, I said that this was my favourite. I posted on Twitter, this is my favourite match at the moment, and as it turned out, I think it was my favourite match of all of Ripper to Shreds. There was a lot of good things in there. Kylie Ray, very athletic. I know Isla Dawn had her in head scissors at one point, and then she just did a handstand and got straight out of it, and then starts waving at her as well. There was a lot of taunting going on, smiling at her. Things we talked about in a previous one, we talked about Roman Reigns against Lesnar at WrestleMania. There was that same sort of characteristics.
Yeah.
Whatever Isla Dawn did to her, she just had a smile for her. And I didn't notice until later. I heard somebody call it out from the crowd, and when you looked on her boots, it did actually say Smiley Kylie, which made perfect sense. That fitted in perfectly. I thought she was going to win. She had Isla Dawn in, I'm going to call it a crippler crossface. I guess it could also be a few other names, but I think of that particular one from Benoit. And she really struggled, but she eventually got to the ropes, broke the hold, and it carried on. And then almost straight after that, and I don't know what the move's called, it looked like a reverse face lock. It's that submission move we've seen before from Isla Dawn, but certainly very effective. And Kylie Ray had no chance but to tap out on that one. And you definitely heard the calls of, please come back.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely agree. I thought Isla Dawn we've seen before, but Kylie Ray was very impressive. And that certainly would be one person I would like to see come back as well. Now, match 4, we didn't get the first name, Queen of the Dinosaurs against Faye Jackson. And Queen of the Dinosaurs could match up physically with Faye Jackson. Faye Jackson's very big, and we've never really seen her match up against anyone of her size before.
Yeah, I know.
Lou Fisto was a lot smaller in the previous match, but this was somebody who was, I would say, bigger than Faye Jackson. So, you want to talk about this match?
Yeah, first I got Calloway for the Queen of the Dinosaurs.
Oh, could be.
Yes,
I think
that's
I saw
her last name.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Calloway, she's just way bigger than Faye Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually nice to see Faye Jackson has somebody her size. Bigger than her size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you can't use her size as an advantage, it was actually the advantage for the other character, and I like to see that change off as well. I thought that was good.
Yeah. So they were going on the ropes trying to knock each other down, and they were also doing like cannonballs, I think.
They did, and I had that. They were very athletic for big girls. I'm going to say Calloway, if that's what we're going to go with as a name. She did a cannonball into Faye Jackson, and then she turned around, and then suddenly Faye Jackson straight back up again. And she knocked her over, and she did a cannonball. Faye Jackson did a cannonball into her, and then Faye turns around, and then straight away Calloway's back up again. And after that, Faye Jackson actually laid down. She said, all right, I'm just going to sit in the corner of the ring. Go ahead, give me another cannonball, which she did. And then Faye got straight up, and she gave her another cannonball as well. So there was that trade-off of strength against each other. And there was some big moves for this one as well. There was a big sidewalk slam. She picked Faye Jackson up and did a sidewalk slam, which is impressive. I've not seen that before either. Faye Jackson jumped off the top rope. That was impressive as well. Landed on her. Kick out at 2, so there was still more things to go. And eventually, Faye Jackson won by a submission move, which probably wasn't what I was expecting for that match either. But I thought that was kind of good. And then after the match, though, what else happened? We knew she was going to appear at some point, but
Mia Yim came out.
Mia Yim came out. Now, she's been injured from a long time. I think it was 11th Dimension when we had the 5-on-5 women's match as the main event. And what did Mia have to say?
She said, good job, Faye. You're in the Commonwealth Cup. And Mia said, well, I am too. And then she said, well, there hasn't been any match announced at the Commonwealth Cup. And she said, well, there's going to be one now. Will it be Faye Jackson and Mia Yim? And
yes,
Faye Jackson accepted.
And it was. And they'd also talked about the fact that how much Faye had grown. She'd only been wrestling for 2 years, which I've mentioned before. I find that astonishing. She definitely comes across as somebody who's far more experienced than that. But really nice to see Mia Yim back. I know she's a big fan favorite at Nova Pro. So that's a first round match. Can you imagine what the second and third round matches are going to be like? That's a great first round match. All right, moving on to match 5. We had Brittany Blake, who's returning against, I believe it's Hudson Envy. I think it was her debut. And the name's definitely Hudson Envy, but I believe it was her debut. Do you want to talk about that match?
Yeah, well, at the start, Hudson Envy, she's just stretching out, and then Brittany Blake, she's like, come on. And then one of the fans yelled, don't break a calf. Yeah, don't tear a calf or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then, yeah, she said, that's the worst. And then, yeah, so the match got underway. And, yeah, Hudson Envy's just being so disrespectful to Brittany Blake. She's, like, pushing her head away.
And Brittany Blake, for people who don't know, she is kind of a slight figure. She's smaller than perhaps the average wrestler. She doesn't weigh as much as the other wrestlers. And if you were to look at her, you probably wouldn't think that she is a wrestler. But she's tough. She's strong. And that was probably Hudson Envy's mistake, taking her too lightly.
Hudson Envy, she was on the ropes, and Brittany Blake, she was hanging down. She just kept kicking her in the head, foot to foot to foot. Mm-hmm. It was just, She tried to pull her hair out, too.
Oh, wow. Now, at the end, I mentioned, I'm not quite sure of the order, because I missed a little bit of this match. A double stomp to the back, and then Brittany Blake pinned her.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, after match 5, if we're not counting the Tim Donst, Logan Easton, LaRoe match again, we went to the intermission, and we'd already bought most of our merchandise earlier. So, what do you want to talk about specifically in that? There was one cool thing that happened.
First of all, there's a peep contest. I don't know if it was an eating contest or they were just
tasting it. Yeah, I couldn't tell.
One of the guys said one of them smelled like diabetes. I don't know how you smell diabetes.
So this was the people who were over by, well, I think he was trying to say there's a lot of sugar in this. So this was by the commentators table, because we tend to sit there. I like to sit there because I can also try and catch out some of the names as well. If we miss a name, you can often hear them referring to their name, which makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and you can see through the ring right in the entrance, because there's no, And
we get the same view that the camera gets, so for me, it's the perfect place to sit. But also I like, because I can hear those signature moves sometime as well, because we learnt the Ugly Ducklings moves that way as well, and we didn't know what they were. So yeah, it was certainly part of the commentary team. It was also part of that BGB podcast. I saw they were filming that as well. I saw Heels Mahoney there as well, who I didn't realize until later. He was actually sat next to us in the sink or swim. I thought I recognized him from Twitter, but I just couldn't quite place him at that point. I was like, is that him? Is that not him? So he was part of that as well. I'm trying to remember. Papa Hales, I think he was involved with that as well.
No, he just came around and, he tried one peep.
He tried one of the peeps. And we probably forgot to mention that as well. We had it was a very brief conversation, but in between the matches, we went down to Subway, because it was the nearest place to where the wrestling ring was. And we actually sat next to Papa Hales, and he asked us if we were enjoying the match. And he shared with us he was actually a hockey player, which I didn't know, because we wear our hockey jerseys. And he said 50 years ago, I think it was, that he played in Minnesota. I want to say he said the Minnesota State Championship game, which was, I thought that was kind of cool. I definitely, if we had more time, I'd like to find out a little bit more about that. So yeah, we got to see Papa Hales involved in that thing as well. Anything else at the intermission?
Well, the cool thing was there was a guy who came over to us while we were just standing around in the intermission.
Mm-hmm.
He came to us and said, do you guys do a podcast? And we said, yes. And he said, can I please be a guest on the podcast? So.
And we had to knock him back because we've still only been doing this for a month. I would say we're still sat around. We're sat on the floor right now. We've got a microphone in front of us, and we still only got one microphone. We've only just basically figured out how to do the basics. And we're not ready for doing anything like that right now. But it was cool to get recognized. I do wonder afterwards, I forgot, I did post at the start of Sink or Swim that you got a front row seat. The roving reporter for the MGB Wrestling Pod has a front row seat, and I took your picture. So it is possible that, I think Ryan was his name. Yeah. He saw the picture on Twitter, and that's it. But it was kind of cool to at least get recognized. And somebody else did talk to us about the podcast as well. So that was nice that some people have seen it. And for those people that don't know, we did hit 100 views actually last week, which my prediction was 10, and most of those were going to be from your grandparents and people like that, and me, and I know you want to listen to it as well. But there's no way you have 100 relatives, so thank you to everybody who listened to that one. And yeah, it's sort of inspired us to keep going, I guess. But I would say we're having fun doing this right now anyway. So, but it was nice that other people enjoyed it and want to be part of the show as well. So that's something perhaps we're going to develop in future episodes. Perhaps we can start getting guests on, interviewing the fans. Might give us something to do at the intermission, Mason, rather than sitting around after we've already got our merchandise. So that was what happened in intermission. So that was kind of a cool thing to do. Okay, we also, the match 6 was Harlow O'Hara, who we saw earlier, against Jordan Blade, who also we'd seen earlier as well. Now, Harlow O'Hara is known as the Priestess, and the thing that came to me most of this match was she told Jordan Blade that she needed to confess for her sins. So it was, yeah, you're rolling your eyes. Well, what she did wrong, she had to apologize for it. It's a very religious thing. But she certainly has a very dominant presence. She has a very big character. I haven't already seen much of that match. There wasn't much else I really wanted to add to that one. There was the setup moves, there was the normal things there, but I don't have anything particular for that match.
Yeah, Jordan Blade won twice, I recall, yeah.
I thought Jordan Blade was good. I like Jordan Blade, and it's another one of those where I got a positive feeling, but I don't know. I just don't have much to add.
And, yeah, it sounded like that one of the fans shouted at Jordan, welcome back.
Oh, and it could have been from Sink and Swim, possibly. I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. Now, the one thing I did see
about... No, that was at Sink or Swim.
Oh, okay. The one thing I did see at Harlow O'Hara, the merchandise, like everyone else, shirts, 8x10s, autographs like that, prayer candles as well. That was kind of a unique one. I didn't notice that one as I was walking around. So, yeah, if you need some unique merch, Harlow O'Hara is the person that you're going to head to. Okay, match 7. Now, I'm struggling on this name, Mason. She definitely fought Solo Darling. I know that one. I thought it was Tasha Steele. Steele was definitely in the tag team match in the earlier session, but I'm looking around on Twitter. I'm looking around on Facebook. I can't find a wrestler called Tasha Steele, which makes me wonder, did we get the wrong name?
Tasha Steele's with a Z?
And I saw somebody on Twitter that had a Z there as well, but it didn't say wrestler. There was all sorts of different people. Unfortunately, it's a common name.
It sounded like she was also Spanish, too, because she was saying uno, dos, tres.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know if...
Was she the wrestler that had the flag as well?
What?
There was somebody had I'm not sure if it was the Puerto Rico flag. I can't really remember.
Yes.
I know there was a... certain...
No. It was a Sink or Swim.
Okay. There was a Mexican flag, but that was a different flag.
On?
Yeah. That's probably what I was thinking. But it had the flag printed on there as well. I really liked this. I thought Tasha Steele was really good. I thought Solo Darling was really good as well. There was a superplex, which is always exciting to see. And that didn't even get a 3 count from that. It was nearly a 3 count for Steele. But then there was a foot on the rope, so that stopped that. And then in the end, there was a sharpshooter from Solo, and then that forced out the tap from Steele. But you could definitely hear people saying for Tasha, please come back. And I would agree. I want to see both of those two people come back.
And, yeah, you said, we should have got Solo Darling's autograph because her dog was signing autographs.
We should, and I feel so bad about this. I know that you love collecting those autographs, and I just didn't notice. We went across to the far side, and then we came back.
Yeah, I saw the dog.
And, yeah, I was like, oh, look, there's a dog there. And then that was all I thought about it, and I didn't really think anything else about it at all. I certainly didn't notice. The dog had a wrestling outfit on.
Oh.
And I haven't shown you the picture of that for yet. You can follow the dog on Twitter. It's at K9_Magnum. K is in the letter and 9 is in the number. And yeah, she holds the dog's paw with a pen, and the actual autograph is of the dog as far as I can tell. So yeah, that's pretty good. So I saw that. So that we need a Solo Darling to come back just so we can get that unique autograph for our collection. But yeah, a wrestling dog, who knew? So yeah, go follow K9_Magnum on Twitter as well. A unique account there as well. Okay, moving on to match 8. This was another debut. This was Holiday. We really struggled on the name. I had Holland Dave written down to begin with. You had Holiday, which made sense because Holly's a girl's name.
Yeah.
It was Holiday. Who is Holiday the one who has all her face painted?
Yes.
Yeah. Holiday versus Alley Cat. So we did get an Alley Cat match out of this because we were a little bit worried.
Safety Cat.
Safety Cat. Well, she was Holly Cat in this one, but yeah, I guess so. Do you want to talk us through this match a little bit?
So I thought it was a good match. I just can't remember any specifics. All I remember is that Alley Cat won the match.
She did, and it didn't actually look likely for a lot of the match. They did set it up. Holiday was very strong for a lot of the match. Alley Cat was a lot weaker in that role. She was a smaller character. There was a few things that happened. One I didn't pick up on. She was about to do a suicide. Alley Cat was about to do a suicide dive, and then she stopped and she held onto the ring. She's like, "I'm scared." I was like, "What?" That made no sense to me. So I was like, "Why would she do that?" That became apparent later in the match, and it should have been obvious. Somebody said, "Oh, because you're a scaredy cat." It all made sense. So it all came together later. Also unusual for Ali's character as well. She actually got a chair from the audience, went across to the little girl who's the big fan, grabbed a chair from that area, and then she put Holiday on that chair, and then she starts hitting her while she's sitting down because she can't get up. So I thought that was a side that I'd not seen before as well. The one thing I did hear in that match as well is, "This is awesome. This is awesome." So you could tell the fans really liked that match, and I was close between these two matches when picking. I preferred the Kylie Ray match a little bit more. I thought it had a little bit more acrobatic stuff in it, but I thought it was very close. And the match ended with a spine buster. And then, there was a spine buster on Ali for a near 3 count, but then in the end she turned it around and she did actually get the win. But yeah, I thought that was a good match as well. Moving on to our main match. Before the main match, there was one more announcement that came on. So I think this was Brian that did this. So I thought Jordan Grace was going to be there. She's one of the big female stars there, and you're thinking with an all-female card, Jordan Grace is going to be there, and no. But they did announce that Shazza McKenzie is going to face Jordan Grace at the next one. So that's on April the 20th, and I believe that's back at the JCC. So we've got that one to look forward to.
Isn't there the Royal Rumble?
That's not till perhaps that is on that one as well. Oh, perhaps they're having that. Well, they also have the Rumble and singles matches as well. So I'm thinking it's the male Royal Rumble. I don't think they're doing a female one as well like they did in WWE. I'm assuming
Isn't it
it's just
mixed?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah.
If it is, they haven't announced that right
They
now.
always do. They're not like WWE when they.
Well, this is their first Royal Rumble as well, so.
Yeah, the first ever Old Dominion Royal Rumble.
Yeah, so, well, I don't know. As far as I know, it was all male, but I haven't heard confirmation either way. Alright, well, we'll find that out closer to the time. Okay, our last match then. This was Angelus Lane, the Bride of Frankenstein, versus a Nova Pro debut for Rain. Now, Rain, I didn't actually know anything about, but I saw on Twitter that a lot of people did seem to know a lot about her. And he actually said she was the first Shine champion. So she has been involved in lots of other things. She has a lot of followers on Twitter. It was like nearly 20,000.
Whoa.
So yeah, she's certainly well known, and she got the introduction straight away because Angelus Lane has a bit of a negative side to her. "Welcome to my ring, Rain," and then it started off like that. Do you want to talk about that match?
Well, again, I was too into trying to get a picture because I forgot all about my iPod in my pocket, and then you reminded me on I think it was Holiday versus Alley Cat, and then you said, "Are you gonna take any pictures on your iPod?" And so I did for both of those matches.
And you like to take pictures as well. And I suddenly realized that it's like, I'm there taking pictures. I was like, you haven't taken a single picture yet. So I know you like your own little personal pictures as well. So yeah, you were taking pictures. I'm going to be honest, I was a little disappointed with this match. I thought Rain was good, but I don't know. I thought the previous match was, perhaps the other match was just so long. And was so good with Alley Cat. And at this point, we've been watching wrestling for like 7 hours, and we knew it was the last match. In my head, I'm thinking, good, we're getting ready to leave. I should go home and get some sleep. I don't even have the winner. I'm assuming it's Angelus Lane.
It was.
I can't imagine that Rain won it on the first try. But anyway. So, yeah, that concludes it. We got out nice and early, actually. Although they were running behind a little bit, I think we left before 11 o'clock. So it was just under 3 hours for that second session.
You said we would get home about 11 or 8.
Yeah, we got back in 11:10. We don't live too far away. It's like a 20-minute drive for us, something like that. So, yeah, we got home at a reasonable time. But, yeah, with it being daylight savings time, we actually lost an hour as well. So we were up an hour early this morning, or it felt like an hour early. So that was pretty good. Yeah, I think that concludes everything we've got to say. We do know the next event is the 20th of April. By the time this podcast is released, I believe tickets should be available as well. I know I talked to Mike at the event, and he said tickets will be out on Sunday. And I think I already told you, but we don't normally sit front row. In fact, we've never sat front row except for the tryout show because you could. I think we're going to get front row. If it's a Royal Rumble, you want to be where they're being thrown out, right? You want the wrestlers at your feet.
Yeah.
So that's the next one to look out for. I believe you can get tickets already for the Commonwealth Cup, and they've been out for a while. I believe that one's in June, and I think you get front row seats for about $70 or $75. So definitely check out at VA Wrestling for more information on things like that. I don't think if we mentioned at the start, don't forget to check us out at MGB Wrestling Pod. I can also be found on Twitter at Mr. Bagshaw. And we also have a YouTube channel, which is probably where you got this from already, but you can find us there as well, MGB Wrestling Podcast. And we have an email account, but I don't think I've even checked it in 2 weeks, so probably don't even bother sending us anything there. I think just go ahead and send it to us on Twitter.
It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
M is for Mason.
G is for Graham.
B is for Bagshaw. This is the MGB